What is going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and I want to share my screen first. And we're off. So, we're going to be going over UFC London for tomorrow. A couple of things to emphasize. It does, because it's in London, it starts at 1 p.m. Eastern. So, make sure that if you're going to play, you're aware of this and get your lineups in. It's very convenient for people from the United States that normally have to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the end of these fights. For those of you that are, the type that'll be on the East Coast that want to go out to dinner later on, you could actually get through this card and then still make it out to dinner with your loved ones and things like that. So that's good news. James, I believe, is in Nashville doing some of the DK Live Final extracurricular activities. I'm going to be playing that myself on tomorrow. I'll have 3 entries in that. Hopefully springboard off the remarkable finish that we had in the FanDuel World Championship the other day. So we're going to go over the UFC card today. And remember, tomorrow, 1 p.m. start time. All right, first of all, the bad news is we did lose a fight. The what was going to be, I think, the first fight of the night, the Luana Carolina and Melissa Mullins fight, is out. So it leaves us with 13 fights. So the very first thing that we have to think about is what type of card it is from a GPP perspective. And the things that kind of go into that are, number one, the amount of fights. Number two, if there's any noticeable bit of chalk, meaning there's a really overwhelming fight replacement situation where someone's just completely mispriced. Obviously, if there's any of that, it makes it a tough GPP card because that's going to be really chalky. And then the other thing to consider is if there's going to be one fight that is just the metrics are just so incredible that people are just going to be forced to play it. And we don't have anything like that this week. The other thing that you have to look at, though, is what the status of the main event is. Now, the main event, because it's 5 rounds, it's always going to project higher than the 3-round fights. So, and it's going to be priced the same. So it's always possible that fight could be a fight that you really need to have, which, again, would make it a little bit of a worse GPP type slate. And as we'll get to, that unfortunately weighs against it because this main event is, I don't think it's fadeable. We'll get to why when we get there. So all in all, what do we have? We have 13 fights, which is good. Okay, not great. 14 would be better, but 13 is good. We don't have any big, price problem here with any one fighter. There hasn't been any replacement fighters or anything like that. But we do have the main event, which is kind of tough to fade. So I would say it's kind of like a B or B minus GPP slate, which means that when we come down to actual lineup construction, you are going to have to prioritize some amount of uniqueness, some amount of funny business, whether it be leaving salary, whether it be doing some calculated swapping of one fighter to another to save a little bit of money, something like that, or to look for actual leverage specifically. So with that in mind, we can go through this card with a little more focus. All right. Right from the beginning, first of all, we have Chanel Dyer versus Ravena Oliveira. And right off the bat, you have a $9,400 fighter, which I really can't see myself playing. You have Chanel Dyer, and her inside the distance line is honestly quite poor. Dyer inside the distance is, look at this, plus like 270 or something. And at 9,400, that makes this literally a full fade. I mean, unless you could promise me that she's going to go for a zillion takedowns and get them all, whatever. I just think that there's just no reason to play even a lineup with her in it. It just doesn't make any sense. The only thing I would say is that if you get low ownership, which you will, I imagine, out of this fighter, then sure, 13 fight card with a tough main event to fade. You are looking for some degree of leverage or some degree of low ownership. So I guess you can make a case for that. And if I do get to her in 150 max, I'll play her. But there's just no way that I'm going to intentionally play a lineup with Dyer in it. Oliveira, she unfortunately just doesn't win often enough, I don't believe. to be viable, she's going, well, okay, let's put it another way. She wins the fight, what, 20% of the time as a plus, 420 underdog? So I guess, considering she's going to be what, 5% owned or something like that, I guess you could argue that there's some degree of value there, right? Because if she's going to win this fight 20% of the time, which seems weird, but I think she will. That's what the odds are saying. She's going to be like 6-7% owned. And if you get no other cheap underdogs to win, I think that she's going to be, probably optimal. So I actually, in a weird way, I think that Oliveira is probably the better of these two plays in DFS. Now, I will say that I'd rather play neither of them, but if I had to pick one or the other, I think again I'd be more down to getting some Oliveira at 5% ownership with 20% winning chances than Dyer at maybe 18% ownership, where even when she wins, she's probably not going to be optimal. So that's my thoughts over there. Right, Shamrock versus Abdul Karim Al Sawadi. Now, again, I don't know how much I've stressed this over the last, however long I've been doing these videos, but whenever you have this mid-range pricing, whether it be 83.79, 82.8, or 81.81, you have to give this fight a lot more weight than perhaps its metrics would indicate. And that's because even if I can tell you that, okay, at 8,300, you need an inside the distance line of, say, minus 250 to make value, it's not just a question of one fighter making value. It's what getting a fighter in at that price does for the rest of your lineup. And because of just the way pricing works at 50,000 and the way that the band of pricing works on these fighters, these $8,300 to $7,900 fighters just make the rest of your lineups go. So you can't look at these things as just, okay, at 8,300, I need this. It's that at 8,300, I would try my best to get it in because of what it could do for the rest of my lineup. So let's take a look. So as I mentioned, for some fight like this, in a vacuum, you'd want, either a big takedown upside situation or maybe, plus 250 inside the distance. And if you look at the metrics, I don't think you're going to get that out of either of them. Let me just see. You have Rock. Well, actually, that's not true. This is not too bad. So Rock inside the distance is plus 270. And that's actually not bad. And strangely, Al Sawadi, his inside the distance is extraordinarily poor. So I guess that Rock has to be considered the better of the two plays. Now, there is one thing that's going Al Sawadi's favor, is that based on my research, he does have a very, I think, easy path to victory here if, in fact, he does opt for it, and that would be going for the wrestling. He does have that in him. He does have good cardio, and Shamrock's takedown defense is not great. So if he does, in fact, go for that, then this inside the distance line isn't going to matter too much because he'll be able to get maybe 90 points just on his takedown. So I still think that Rock is the preferred play here, just because I think that inside the distance line is just much stronger, but maybe not by a lot. So again, how would I rate this? I would say, all right, maybe a third of the time we fade it, maybe 18% Rock, and maybe what's the rest? 14% Sawadi, I guess. That makes some sense. But again, normally I would say these aren't great metrics because of this mid-range pricing. I still think that you have to play it. All right, moving along, we have Louis Sutherland versus Brando Perisic, and got a whole bunch of these big favorites that just kind of tough to argue against. But you're looking at this price. Perisic is only minus 255, which VIG adjusted is minus 220. Is there straight up line value in Sutherland at 7,200? You could certainly argue that. Usually when you get these $7,200 fighters, you're getting, these plus 3-1 underdogs, and that's just simply not the case here. Let's look at some of these others. Actually, Murphy, even Silva. Yeah, I guess all these guys down here are pretty nicely priced for these underdogs. In other words, usually you get this price tag on these guys, 73, 72, 71, whatever. You're usually dealing with like plus 3-1 underdogs, but here, just because again the way these fights came together, I mean, all these underdogs are pretty decent. Okay, so I do think that that just on money line value, I think that Sutherland's okay here. Don't really like his style too much, if that matters. I mean, he's probably just going to try to clinch up and dirty box and just kind of just get there without a lot of flash. So it is possible that he wins and doesn't make the optimal, but at 71, 7,200, does it really matter too much? I don't know. So I do like him a little bit. What about Perisic? Now, Perisic, again, his money line isn't great, but let's look at this inside the distance line, which is really all we care about here. And inside the distance at minus 140, that's very, very strong. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Perisic at 9K minus 140. I mean, that's a very, very strong inside the distance line. So I actually do like this quite a bit. As far as Sutherland goes, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, first of all, Perisic is going to look good, so he's probably going to get some ownership, so you get a little bit of leverage with Sutherland. And again, just the money line of 7,200 at only, 2-1 to lose or 2-1 to win, I think is pretty reasonable. So I do like both sides of this fight. M. Contravicius against Antoine Dracoli. This is going to be a tough one because I think that everybody's going to be on Contravicius for good reason. I mean, he's a minus million favorite, but not to mention his inside the distance line is probably minus 400. We'll take he's actually almost minus 500. Not to mention the fact that it is inside the distance line around 1, he's favored. So this is a tough fade. I mean, it really is on metrics. The only thing that's making it difficult is his pricing. 9,600 is very, 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 very tricky. But the thing is that on a card like this, you got some options. As I mentioned, all these 71, 7,200 fighters have reasonable enough money lines where you can insert those, well, obviously not with Perisic, to get these $9,600 really, strong plays. So I think that he's, you should take it. Take the one, the fact that he's probably going to finish in round 1, and if he finishes in round 1, his score is somewhere between 100 and anything, and 130 or whatever it is. Obviously, you prefer the 130, but maybe 100 gets you there. Who knows? So I think it's a very, very it's a very good favorite to get. I think that there's pricing in the bottom tier that allow you to get to him. So I have no problem with him. Now, again, you're getting 600, more. You have to pay 600 more than Perisic, but you're paying for that because you're getting value for that because you're getting this minus 140 inside the distance line, as opposed to Perisic, which is, only minus 140 to finish. So, but both these favorites look pretty good. Dracoli, unfortunately, just doesn't win often enough as a big plus 700 underdog to play. So probably not going to get to him. Although, let me just remind everybody what these numbers are. So if Dracoli is like plus 600 vig adjusted, it does mean he wins the fight 14% of the time. And considering what I just said, that Montes is going to be just hyper, easy to play, you get a decent amount of leverage against him by playing Dracoli. I know it's gross. I mean, it doesn't look like he's provided anything, but I don't know. I mean, who died and left Contravicius, the leader of the free world, as Magic would like to say. I mean, he got subbed in this regional promotion down here. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have good takedown defense, and Dracoli goes for takedowns. I mean, it's possible. And again, regardless of what you think is going to happen, he is going to win the fight about 14% of the time, and he is going to be owned about 5. So I, unfortunately, am probably going to get to him as well. Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. Here's another one. You have Pinto, fight inside the distance is probably minus odds. Oh my God. Not only is it minus 300, but if we look at his last fight, he did have 3 takedowns as well. So this has got 130, 140 in there. The problem here again is 9,700. All right. Now, I mean, we're really kind of pushing the envelope here by paying 9,700. But as I mentioned, if you come out and get like Louis Sutherland to win, or who else? God forbid you get Tricoli to win. Any of these guys that are pretty decently priced, then you'll be able to get this Mario Pinto 125 in. So this is not usually my style. I don't usually pay up for these 9,700s, but I think because you're getting some decent money line value on some of these cheapos that allow you to get there. Okay, moving along, we have Lucien Keita versus Nathaniel Wood. This could be, as the kids say, like quite a banger. You have Nathaniel Wood, who always seems to get in these firefights, but the fights never seem to finish. I also believe that Nathaniel Wood has some takedown upside here if he chooses to go for it. Let's take a look at the metrics here. So you have Keita inside at plus 160, which is all right. I mean, what's his price, Keita? 8,700. I mean, that's all right. That's not great, but it's okay. I think I'm a little more interested in the Wood side of this as another underdog here. I mean, he's plus 200 to win. He's 7,500, which is reasonable, and he's got takedown upside. I think I prefer the dog here. I think Keita's fine, but I think if I had to pick one, I think I would play Nathaniel Wood. Then we go on. We have, oh my God, another banger here. Mason Jones versus Alexis Sola. Now, again, we have this mid-range pricing. So whatever you think of these metrics, it's going to be very difficult to fade this, especially, consider Mason Jones. He can generate some fantasy points. I mean, he's very aggressive himself, and he doesn't particularly care for defense. So this fight could deliver. We'll take a look at the inside the distance lines here. I think it's going to be a little small. But look at this. You have, oh boy, Jones inside plus 360. So Axel inside plus 400. I mean, if these inside the distance lines are going to keep people off of this fight, which I guess it should, I don't know. I think this fight could go crazy. Anyway, so yeah, again, another mid-range fight. I would play both sides. And this is like really interesting. We've seen all these other videos that I've done, and sometimes I find it very difficult to come up with people to play. Now I'm finding it difficult to fade. I mean, is there anybody we're fading so far? I mean, okay, so I don't like Dyer. I guess Selyawadi, I don't like that much, but he's 8,300. Franco against Pinto doesn't win often enough, I don't think. But or does he? I mean, like even Franco, what's his money line? We've kind of glossed over that. I mean, we're talking about like 10% winning chance. That's not going to be good enough. So I guess you could fade him. And then I'm saying to play all 4 of these guys. Boy, oh boy, you know what this is? This card is a recipe for Saberson. I mean, honestly, it's one for some kind of like portfolio, some smart diversifier to figure out what to do here when you're playing 150, because I mean, this is going to be impossible to do on your own. All right. Curtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. I mean, I'm not a big believer in this Kurt Campbell situation. I mean, who is he beating? we'll take a look at the inside the distance line. We're looking for guys to fade now. I mean, honestly, I think this might be one of them. Let's take a look at his inside the distance line. There you go. Okay, so Campbell at plus 280 inside the distance. That's not going to work at his price. Danny Silva has good takedown defense, or good enough takedown defense. So I don't think Curtis Campbell is going to get there in grappling. So, okay, we're going to fade Curtis Campbell. Danny Silva is another one of these plus odds guys that has decent money line value. Okay. So I regard him very similar to guys that we've talked about already, that being Sutherland. I guess that was pretty much it. So he's very similar to Sutherland in that his upside doesn't look that great, but his money line is good enough that, he wins the fight 33% of the time. He's 7,200, gets you to these bigger, these bigger favorites. So sure. So I would say fade. Campbell, and you could get to De Silva. All right, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Roman Dolidze. Minus 500 favorite. Inside the distance line is going to be pretty freaking strong. Probably minus 200, I'm going to guess. Let's take a look. Duncan, no, not really. I mean, not even 110. Okay, so, and I think he's going to be popular here. So maybe Duncan is a funny fade. Listen, he doesn't really have takedowns, so he's not going to go for there. He's just going to try to knock out Dolidze. And I guess that's possible, but when is Dolidze gotten knocked out? That's a question I have. The answer is I don't think ever. I mean, not never, but we'll go through all this. Never. So if Duncan gets all his wins by KO, and we need him to get a KO in the first round, really, to get there, well, why on earth would we play him at 9,300 against a guy who hasn't get knocked out with his inside the distance line not even being that great? So, okay, we're going to fade hometown hero Chris Duncan. Ouch. And I'll say something else. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that people were making cases for why you should play Dolidze against Fluffy Hernandez. I'm not saying that it's a good case, but people were arguing this, and now he's plus 1,000. I mean, against Duncan. I don't know. I guess it's a good money line bet. No, he's only 6,900. He's plus 500. He's just not really that great of a bet here. So I would say probably fade this one. All right, we're getting somewhere. Ewell Baranowski versus Austin Lane. Okay, first of all, money line. Again, another minus 600. I'm going to say this, by the way. I've heard a little bit too much about how Austin Lane is the worst fighter of all time. I'm going to make this case. No, I'm not going to play him in DFS, but you know what? Maybe I will do a freaking betting breakdown. You know what? If I have time, I think I'll find some time. I'm going to do a betting breakdown where I haven't done this in a while, where I take some contrarian stances and back it up with some real money. You know, I am going to actually do that. It'll be a separate video, though. Okay. In any case, Baranowski's metrics are obviously very strong here. I believe it's going to be minus what? I'm going to say minus 400 to finish. We'll take a look. Yep, minus 400 to finish. What is he inside the first round? Minus odds. So tough fade, right? According to the metrics. I personally don't believe it. He did get first round KO over Islam. I mean, he really just murdered him. But that was just one fight. It feels like kind of a fixed fight for him. I mean, to give him Austin Lane like this. But I will say this. If Baranowski has bad takedown defense, what I have seen Austin Lane do is take down a dude as a huge underdog because that was his only path to victory. And it worked. This fight against Despain, he was plus 1,000,000. Okay. And he had no chance except to go for takedowns because Despain's takedown defense was so terrible. So I do believe that this is what he's going to try. And if, in fact, this dude's takedown defense is no good, this could get greasy. So I don't know if I'm going to play him, in DFS, but I think that there's a reason to fade a little bit of Barry and Opsy. Because remember, if Austin only gets one takedown and controls him for one round, that's the end of the DFS score. All right, Sam Patterson versus Venom Page. Here's a little bit of a couple of side notes. Number one, these guys are training partners. So you could argue that this fight might not have the same upside as others because maybe training partners won't go crazy on each other in the fight, in the actual fight. But I don't know. You have Venom Page is what, plus 150 inside, maybe plus 200. That's not good. He's not going to be playable at 8,700 with no takedown upside. But the Patterson is the nuts, right? He's not only plus 300 inside, but he's got grappling upside. Let's go. This is probably my favorite underdog on the slate. I like him more than. Do I like him more than Wood? I like both these guys. I think both these guys are really good underdogs. But I think Patterson's an animal. You know what I mean? Like, he'll go after this dude. Now, problem is that Venom Page is like really slick, and he might be able to stay away from him and piece him up a little bit. But I don't know. At 7,600, I'm just going to have to do it. So I like this quite a bit. And Page, no thanks. Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell. Here's another. I knew there was a third one of these well-priced underdogs. So you have like a fight that's only minus 160, and yet the underdog here is 7,100. This is very, very strong. Okay, just on money line value. Now, again, he got in there against Almeida, got a first-round KO, 2 knockdowns. He murdered him. You know what I mean? And then Oki, he was doing very well in that fight also on short notice. Who died and left Luke Riley, the second coming of whoever? I don't know. This to me is a terrible play, Luke Riley. His money line stinks. His inside the distance line, I presume, stinks. We'll see. Yeah, plus 220 at this 9,100, no thanks. So for me, it's going to be Aswell. And then the main event, unfortunately, I think this fight's kind of a lock. You have Evloev with just tons and tons of takedown upside and unlimited cardio and 5 rounds to incorporate A and B. You have 5 rounds of cardio and can deal with and can put up all this takedown upside. That's 180 points, 120 points, 110 points. It's just every score that he wins is going to win. Is going to get there. So it's just, unfortunately, you just can't fade it. And on the other hand, Murphy, you can't fade either. Why? Well, he's got 5 rounds to work with. And number one, he can get a KO. Number two, in 5 rounds of volume, it's probably going to be worth 100 points. And number three, Evloev's going to be the chalkiest fighter on the slate, I would imagine, by a long shot. And so you're going to get natural leverage for against him. So this is what's going to make the card a little difficult, is I do think the main event is going to be very difficult to fade. But listen, what you could do is you could take shots at those ridiculous cheapos like Tricoli. You could take shots at Ravena Oliveira, who's playing her, and she's going to win the fight 10%, 14% of the time. And then you compare those with some of these big price favorites that, people are sort of afraid to play because they're so expensive. So that's my thoughts on the DFS card. If I have time, I will do a lineup construction video. Don't think I will have time though, but maybe. But I do think I want to do a betting breakdown. So stay tuned for that. That'll be within the next couple of hours. Till then, this is for Pater. This is Eric Sheetaber. Good luck, everybody.